This is J. Krishnamurti's sixth public talk in Saanen, 1969.
What would you like me to talk about? Sit quietly for a whole hour.
Yourself, sir.
Huh?
Yourself. Can we hear something about your own life?
What, sir?
Can we hear about your life?
I am talking about my life for the last time, 40 years. You see, somebody suggested that we should sit quietly for an hour. There is something in that. Whether it is possible for the mind to be completely quiet for an hour, without thought, without all the problems, without the tensions, pressures, the remembrance of hurts and flatteries, just to be physically very quiet and inwardly absolutely still. Shall we talk about that? Yes? You know, this is what is called generally this absolute quietness inwardly and physically very still, what in Asia is called meditation, where thought is in complete abeyance and the physical body, the organism, goes on its own without any interference of the mind, and so gradually becomes more and more quiet, more and more intelligent. And it is said that it is only in this state of mind and heart and the nervous system that the highest can be experienced. But I think one can see for oneself how important it is to have a physical organism that is independently intelligent, not chivied about or driven by thought, by desire, by various pressures and strains, so that the body, the organism, no longer controlled, shaped by thought in its search for pleasure and avoidance of pain or fear, has the quality of great sensitivity and intelligence. And this is possible also by eating right diet, which each one has to find out what their body needs. So that is one part of it, the complete stillness of the body intelligent, alert, not disciplined according to the various psychological demands, various pressures, so that the body becomes highly alert, sensitive, and therefore has its own intelligence. Is that possible in a world in which we are living, where one smokes, drinks, kills animals to eat, and so on? Is that possible for a body to be completely so highly disciplined and that discipline is not imposed by thought but by its own intelligence? It is possible only when one has the right kind of diet, and not to make diet a religion, which is being a vegetarian, don't make that into something extraordinarily holy. And this quality of sensitivity and intelligence physical exercise is necessary. Am I laying down a discipline? No, I don't think so. Therefore they say, you must do yoga. And again, one mustn't make it into a religion, that you must be a vegetarian, you must do yoga, then only you will be highly intelligent, highly moral, highly spiritual. Hitler was a vegetarian. So was Mussolini. And there are a great many yogis who lose their temper at the least provocation, full of vanity. But one can see that exercise is necessary, walking, swimming, or doing yoga. I have been told that word means harmony, skill, not only in action, but also inwardly, to have the great skill in all action, which is in all relationship. And in doing yoga exercise, it's also necessary to find out and be taught perhaps how to breathe rightly, which is called pranayama. To breathe rightly, so that you have more oxygen in your blood. You're all listening very attentively, aren't you? To something that is of not very great importance. So one has to do that. The speaker does it every day for 2 hours. It's not a religion. It's purely an exercise to keep the body healthy, vigorous, vital. Now we've settled with the body, right? Then we can go on into deeper, wider issues. That is when the body, the sensory perceptions are extraordinarily alert, sensitive, clear. Which can obviously only exist when the body doesn't overeat, doesn't drink, all those things which are obvious. Then the body, the organism being extraordinarily alive, sensitive, aware, watchful. Then we can proceed to find out how the mind, the brain, also can be vital, alive, highly sensitive, and that very sensitivity, which is intelligence, brings about that quality of silence in which alone you can observe. So there are several issues involved in this. One of them being the constant demand for deeper, wider, more meaningful experiences. Most of us are tired, bored with the ordinary experiences of life. Sexual, all the superficial experiences that one has practically every day of one's life. And being tired of them, and once more, the so-called supreme or transcendental, or the experience of the infinite, all that. So one takes drugs, LSD, marijuana, and hashish, bhang, and all the rest of it. Apparently, it brings about, these drugs, certain chemical changes in the body, which then give a greater perception, greater sensitivity, so that you see the colors of a painting or the beauty of a tree, the bright yellow color of a flower more vividly, more intensely, and more directly. So one is achy, longing for more experiences, and one goes through these drugs, psychedelic drugs, and so on. And there is also the process of fasting, not eating for many days, so that your brain becomes much more light, more alert, more quiet. And in that state also, there is certain quality of experience, again, which is a chemical process. The drug, the fasting, the abstinence sexually or eating one meal a day, and training constantly the organism. So that there are certain experiences brought about through chemical changes. And those experiences, apparently, because the speaker has not tried them and will not try them, for he feels that they are totally unnecessary and dangerous, in that chemical change, certain experiences happen and they disappear. And so you depend on more and more drugs, more and more fasting, more and more abstinence, struggling to have the ultimate experience. I wonder why we demand experiences at all. We have the ordinary experiences of daily life. Anger, bitterness, jealousy, suspicion, grudges, flattery, antagonism, all that. Those are all experiences. And being surfeit with all that, we want more. I wonder why. Why this craving for more and wider and deeper experiences, going to the moon or living under the sea or meditating for 24 hours a day, whatever that may mean, or practicing certain systems of meditation in order to achieve certain so-called high experiences. I wonder if you have ever examined the implication of experience. What is involved in this desire for experience? The word experience means to go through, finish with it. Go through to the very end of it. And apparently we never do. There is the residue of that experience as memory, and depending what that experience offers, pleasure, pain, fear, whatever it be, we hold to that, to those memories, and want more of the particular kind that will give us greater excitement, greater pleasure, greater delight, or greater happiness. Which means that we never finish any experience. Always remember parts of it and demand more of it. The memory of a certain pleasure and the demand for the repetition of the pleasure by having more experience, or the same kind of experience but much more of it. So one is never free but always bringing to the fresh, new challenge the old responses and memories. So that the mind is never free. And therefore, the mind that is never free is always asking for more experience. Please do understand this little more deeply, because as we are going into something that demands the understanding of experience, and if you are still craving for more experience, you have to understand why you want more, and whether reality, if there is such thing, can ever be experienced. The whole of the East is everlastingly talking about realization, experiencing the highest, and so on, so on, so on. And whether the mind can experience something that cannot be put into words or brought into the field of time, which is memory, and therefore recognition. Do you understand the question? So one must be very clear the meaning and the significance of experience, and whether experience in the sense we are talking about has any validity at all. Go to the moon has an experience to collect data, more knowledge. There, scientifically, you need knowledge. You need various forms of technological experience and experiments. But when the psyche, when there is an inward demand for more and more experience, does it not indicate a very shallow mind? A mind that is already crowded with the everyday experiences and wanting more of something extraordinary through religion, through meditation, through repetition of words which are called mantras, which are all a form of excitement and entertainment. So you must be very clear when we are going to something where a mind that's completely still when it is seeking experience, and the excitement of it and the pleasure of it is bound to be caught in illusion. It will deceive itself. And that very deception becomes the truth for that mind. Then there is the question of this whole modern phenomena that's going on in the world, the so-called the occult, the hidden. Man again, being fed up, tired, bored with the daily existence of prosperity or poverty or all that struggle, he wants mystery. He wants something new. He wants to find out if there is the hidden meaning of life. He cultivates extrasensory perceptions He becomes clairvoyant, sees visions. And again, a petty little mind, a mind that is shallow, shoddy, unreliable, deceptive. Such a mind seeking the hidden will obviously find it. That is, will have visions, perhaps may be able to read thoughts of others. I don't know if that interests you. It's like reading private letters. And if you can see visions or discover hidden or see ghosts, all that, the occult. And has that is the search and the experience and the meaning of discovering something hidden, the occult, having great experiences through drugs or through fasting, through various forms of self-imposed disciplines. And perhaps having a body highly, exquisitely delicate, trained, alive, will all that guarantee or offer something of the quality of bliss, an ecstasy, which has nothing whatsoever to do with pleasure. And that, what we are going to find out. As we said, one must have a very quiet mind, not on occasions, but all the time, deeply. Because if you would see anything, observe anything, observe your wife, your husband, observe your friend or your girlfriend, observe the tree, the cloud, the running waters, the curve of a bird on the wing. The mind must be quiet so that it can observe totally, completely, fully. Because if the mind is chattering, or if the brain is projecting its own memories, intentions and longings, then it is not possible to observe what actually is taking place. So to see a tree and the beauty of it, the delicacy of the leaf, the quiver of a single leaf when there is no breeze at all, to see all that, the extraordinary quality of that tree and its beauty, the mind must be obviously very still, observing, looking, listening. That stillness is necessary. Now, whether that stillness can be brought about by discipline, that is, by following any system, whether it's Zen system, the various forms of yoga and disciplines out of India, or the disciplines of a monastic life of Christendom, whether such discipline, that is enforcement, conformity, suppression, or voluntarily accepting the norm, the pattern, and thereby bringing about conflict in oneself, whether such discipline does bring about the extraordinary quality of a silence that is completely free. Otherwise it is not silence. If I force myself to be silent, is that silence? Go and sit in a room and be quiet, be aware of my toe, and watch how I walk, watch what I say, constantly under pressure of trying to be aware. Does that bring about silence? Silence can only come when the mind is no longer in conflict, no longer in any way tortured, twisted, has any bias, crowded. So, one sees the importance of a mind that is very quiet, and also whether the brain can be extraordinarily alert without reacting constantly to everything. Are you all asleep or following this? You understand, as we said the other day, it's the function of the brain to protect itself, to be secure, to live and not be destroyed, to have great order. Otherwise it can't function properly. It's a machine. And can that machine, which is so conditioned by culture, by the society in which it lives, by its own demands, urges, complaints, and you follow, that brain, so heavily conditioned by time, by culture, by society, by the books, literature, cinema, can that brain be still? Though actively still and responding when necessary, but still. Otherwise, if it is not, it will interfere with the quality of silence. And therefore, prevent a total observation in which there is complete freedom, so that it can look, observe, listen wholly. Now, to find out whether the brain can be quiet, not asleep, not drugged, not forced to be quiet, not become quiet through a deeper motive so that it receives greater pleasure, can that brain condition, living in the field of memory, time, can that be quiet, alert? To find that out and to find out the quality of silence, meditation is necessary. And this whole process of what has been described just now, the intelligence of the body, the various tricks the mind plays upon the body, the demand for drugs, experiences, the excitement of new experience, visions, the occult, to understand the whole of that is part of meditation. Not just sitting quiet and trying to capture some fantastic vision. And to find that out, the body must be extraordinarily quiet. Whether you lie down, sit down, how you sit down is such a small affair. It's better to sit still or lie still, so that if you sit still, the blood can go into the brain fully. But if you crouch, obviously it's more difficult. Those are all very tiny little affairs. You can experiment with that, all with that for yourself, you can find out. So that is the beginning of what is considered meditation. And nothing else is meditation. Not going to a monastery, escaping from life and relationship, and trying to find out through certain systems, satori, moksha, heaven, nirvana. That way lies to great deceptions and great hypocrisy. And then from that arises the question, how can thought be controlled? Because if the moment a thought is born, it begins to bring about fragmentation. Right? It's the function of thought to work in fragments. Otherwise, the thought cannot function. Therefore, one resorts, I don't know why, to learning concentration. So that which means controlling thought. So intensely thought doesn't go away, but is completely focused on one thing. Because thought says, if I can do that, then I will keep the brain, the mind, the whole body very quiet. And perhaps in that quietness, there will be a realization of some extraordinary experience. And again, it says to itself, I'll repeat words, constant repetition of words. Christian Latin words or Sanskrit words, and thereby also hoping to become quiet. A dull mind is generally very quiet, and the repetition of words makes the mind more dull. So, can thought be controlled so that the brain becomes quiet? Right? In that is involved, who is the controller of thought? Thought itself, obviously. So thought is playing a trick upon itself by saying, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to discipline, force, control, suppress every other thought except one thought, which is God, whatever it is. In that there is conflict. Thought wanders off and you pull it back. And it's a waste of time, this constant battle. So what is one to do? This endless chatter of thought. What is one to do? Knowing that thought does breed fragmentation, break up of things, yours, mine, we, they, my country, all that business. And thought, as long as it is active, is responding to the past, to its own conditioning, to its own memories, experience, knowledge. And so one asks, is it possible to suppress thought or find out where thought must function completely, logically, healthily, vitally, without any tinge of emotion? And also where thought must be quiet. So thought doesn't impinge, overflow into the other part where the brain and the mind must be entirely quiet. You've understood my question? This is not fragmentation, where thought must function and the thought must not function. It is not a division. If you divide it, then it becomes a fragmentation, a division, and then a conflict. But if you see that thought I'll put it down the other way. If you see that there must be a wholeness, a complete state of mind in which there is no division whatsoever. Because where there is division, as yours and mine, the young and the old, the good and the bad, not that there is not the bad and the good, the division. This division does breed contradiction and therefore conflict. Can the mind live in a state of completeness, a wholeness, in which there is no division whatsoever? Then thought has its place, and therefore will not breed division, will not bring about fragmentation. Is the speaker explaining it somewhat? Look, sir, when the mind is completely silent, it is whole, it's complete, it is not functioning in fragments. Because in that there is no division, as silence and noise, as being quiet and having a life of turmoil, that, this and that. In that state, in that quality of silence, there is no division whatsoever. And into that silence, thought can never bring about fragmentation. And therefore, thought can function in silence. Am I conveying something? Rather, thought can function out of silence, out of silence. Is this all becoming illogical? Rather oriental or occidental? Because you say, one wants to find out what is true, not according to Marx or Stalin or any of the gurus or the great teachers. One wants to find out, if one can, what is the beauty, what is ecstasy, what is something that is beyond all measure of time and comparison, in which there is no measurement at all. One wants to see it, to come upon it. You can't obviously invite it, because it's much too vast. And so, one asks, can one see without any image, without any distortion, a person? Maybe your wife, your husband, your friend, or your whatever it is. To observe without any distortion, so that you are then intimately in contact. Because you cannot be in contact if there is any form of division. That is, when there is space between the observer and the thing observed. Right? If there is a space between me and the tree, the psychological space of image, of knowledge, of like and dislike, that space brings about a division. And therefore, in that division there is always distortion. Right? And therefore, you would never see the tree completely. It is never... You don't become the tree, but when the space disappears between you and the tree, there is quite a different perception. You see the thing entirely differently. In the same way, can you look at your wife or your husband or your friend without this intervening space in which distortion can take place? And the distortion inevitably takes place when there is space and division created by thought, which produces various forms of images. Can these images disappear entirely, and with it the space, so that there is immediate contact, immediate perception of what is, and therefore the quality of unity, the harmony. In the same way, can one observe without the observer. Because then only is it possible for complete silence to be. And when there is this silence, you'll find out the origin of thought, the beginning of thought. And it is important to find out for oneself the origin, the beginning, which is the right from the beginning. You understand? 2 million years ago or more. Because the human brain is the result of this 2 million years and more. And to go right to the very end and find out the beginning. And this can only take place in complete silence. And therefore the mind then becomes an extraordinary instrument of perception. And it is only such a mind that can see what is the real and what is false. You can sit in cross-legged position, meditating closed eyes, that they have done for a million years in India. And they still do it. And it's fairly easy to do that. But what is important is to find out the quality of the mind and the heart. Because in this quality lies beauty. For beauty is the quality of love. And without all this, do what you will, you'll never come upon that extraordinary state of mind which alone can see that which is not, which can never be put into words. You know, there is a story, if you'll forgive me for repeating a story, of a disciple going to a great master and sitting by the side of him, because you must never sit in front of the guru. He sits there cross-legged, eyes closed, in the right posture. And the teacher says, "My friend, what are you doing?" And the disciple replies, "I am trying to reach the highest state of consciousness." And the guru, the teacher, presently picks up 2 pieces of stone and rubs them. Keeps on rubbing, which disturbs the disciple. And the disciple opens his eyes and says, "Master, what are you doing?" Oh, he says, "I'm rubbing these 2 pieces of stone to make one of them into a mirror." And the disciple says, "Master, really? You can do that for... You will never make a mirror out of that stone." And the guru teacher says, "My friend, you can sit like that for the next 10,000 years and you will never come upon it." Now, would you like to ask any questions? Contemplation, is that fragmentation? And is contemplation an affair which involves a total state, or is it a fragmentation? I don't know. I don't know what you mean by contemplation. To contemplate on what? Contemplation can mean either total attention, complete attention, in which there is no entity who says, I am going to be attentive. If there is an entity that is trying to be attentive, there is fragmentation. But if contemplation implies a state of mind and heart where there is no sense of division, then perhaps we are talking about the same thing. Bearing in mind, the description is never the described. Huh? Beg pardon, madam, I can't hear.
Can the mind use the brain as an instrument when it is completely attentive?
Completely
Attentive.
ascended. What?
Attentive.
When it's completely attentive. Can the mind use the brain as an instrument when it's completely attentive? I don't know what you're all talking about, do you? Can the mind use the brain as an instrument? I really don't know. Huh? Why do we make all this so complicated? I have made this thing complicated enough, but why do you add more to it?
Why do you say that mantras dull the mind?
Why do you say that the mantras dull the mind? You know what mantras are? It's a Sanskrit word. Mantra means garland of words. And he says, why do you say the repetition of a mantra makes the mind dull? Have you tried repeating any word over and over again, giving to that word a significance? What does that repetition do? Beg pardon? It quietens the ripple of the mind.
Brings the focus up to the eye center, and therefore allows one to
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is, the repetition of the words stops the ripple of the mind, so that the mind then can concentrate at the center of the brain, here. You know, this whole idea of mantra yoga is born in India. And God's sake, I don't know why they project all that into these countries. Now, first of all, have you not noticed, sirs, any repetition, it doesn't matter what it is, getting used to something. If you got even used to these extraordinarily beautiful mountains, getting used to them by watching them, seeing them every day, won't your mind become dull? Getting used to them. The mind chatters, and to quieten the chattering we say, well, let me repeat certain words. Of course it quietens the mind. But the mind may be extraordinarily shallow. Or the mind may be twisted, distorted, full of anxiety, prejudice, fear. And such a mind, with its brain, can be made quiet by the ripple of words. And is such a mind quiet? Or has it been covered over by various forms of words and activities so that it doesn't feel what it actually is? Wouldn't it be much simpler, instead of repeating words, just to see what the mind is? That is, to watch oneself, to watch one's reactions, one's antagonisms, prejudices, of like and dislike. Wouldn't that be much simpler to begin there? So that the mind, beginning to know itself what it is actually, by observing can be free of all the anxiety and so on, then the mind naturally becomes quiet. And therefore much more intelligent, much more awake and sensitive. Can thought function in the stillness and if thought functions, has it still a background? Suppose if I say yes or no, where are you? Please, sirs, I don't quite understand all these questions. What is important? To understand this very complex thing called life, the living relationship, the battle of relationships, man, woman, or friends, and so on and so on. This is our life. Not the repetition of words, which becomes an escape from life. The actual understanding of my feeling of guilt, anxiety. If you have no guilt, no anxiety, no fear, then why should you repeat words and all that? You're in quite a different dimension. But as our life is this, the agony of every day, the brutality of violence of every day, that's what is important to understand and see whether we can be free of all that, free of fear. Then when the mind is free of fear, then you won't ask any question. Then you will know that truth is under every leaf, on every stone, in the heavens, in the rivers, in the birds, in the face of another.
Why should we escape from the life by trying to be quiet?
Why should we escape from life by trying to be quiet? As we explained earlier, it's only by observing, being aware, attentive, that one can understand life, the daily movement of life. Being quiet, which doesn't mean that I am escaping from life in all, and to understand life I must be quiet. I see that to understand anything, I must listen, I must observe, right? And I can only observe in silence. If my mind is chattering or thinking about something else, I can't listen to you, right? And to listen to you, then I must pay attention.